So again, welcome back, and it's an honor to share with you what you know about semiconductor industry. So again, MTDC, congratulations on the launch of SemiconStart Malaysia, as well as Sean, your organization. Fascinating stuff ahead of us. And what we see now is SemiconStart is being launched in a new era of semiconductor supply chains, not just globally, but also for Malaysia. And as we heard in our morning talks, it's a SemiconStart builds on the 50 plus years of foundation that Malaysia has. Malaysia has been a leader in the back-end packaging OSAT industry for several decades. And SemiconStart is Malaysia's way of implementing, as the minister said in the morning, the ambitious plans of National Semiconductor Strategy. Now we have several founders here, and many of you have technologies that might be at different level of readiness, maybe tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, maybe. And then you are, as founders, facing some really important decisions. Decisions about which industries you launch your first product in. What's your fabrication strategy? Do you go fabless? Which foundries do you partner with? What do you do with your IP? Do you license it, or do you build your products using your own IP? What's your funding strategy? How do you deal with export controls and so on? And as you advance through these various technological readiness levels, you will face these questions again at a more detailed, more focused level about which companies do you partner with, which suppliers do you choose, which regions do you build on. And these decisions that you're making at this level, tier 3, 4, 5, these are really important decisions because they are going to commit you to a long-term path. We heard this in the morning. This is not a short-term game. You're looking at next decade. You're looking at making commitments for the long term. And this is where the new era matters a lot. So we have been asking this question, what exactly does this new era mean? For the last 4 years, we have been working on this. We started with a project that we had funded by Intel that wanted us to look at the future of semiconductor supply chains by looking through the lens of scenario planning, which we have been using for almost 2 decades at ASB and also before ASB during my research at MIT. And the reason it was triggered is because of different countries having their own semiconductor policies, as well as the technological changes that are taking place. And what we discovered in this industry is that this new era looks significantly different from the era that we have experienced. When it comes to Malaysia, there are some specific challenges. The kind of talent Malaysia needs is not just electrical engineers and mechanical engineers, but you are talking about needing computer scientists for chip design, but also physicists and chemists for advanced fabrication who understand the interactions at the molecular level that the chip design is entering. For advanced packaging, it's not, you cannot just say this is packaging, same as what Malaysia used to do. No, you need the capability that is what we used to call front-end capability. Lithography machines, etching equipments, and things like that. A different kind of CapEx is needed. This is also affected by the rivalry between US and China, not just in terms of access to technology or access to equipment, but also in access to AI models. How does that domain look like? And there are several other issues that we, in mainstream news, we don't hear about. So there are issues about PFAS regulations. So these are the forever chemicals. These are important for equipment, the different parts that are used in semiconductor equipment. And there are regulations on the board about control of these chemicals. They vary widely between US, Europe, and Asia and other parts of China. What would they look like? What do sustainability aspects look like? So when you put all these things together, what we see is that this new era is an uncertain era, and it's also a very dynamic era. It's changing rapidly, and it's changing unpredictably. So one thing that we know from our research in other sectors, is conventional wisdom can often mislead you when you're operating in this dynamic world. And it has implications. It has big implications for semiconductor industry, for startups as well as other industries, other companies. You don't want to get locked into unsuitable suppliers or in wrong locations. You want to make sure that you're making your bet on the right node when you do the cost versus performance trade-offs. You're building products for the right market, and several such issues exist. So let me give an example from our own work of what I mean by conventional wisdom can sometimes mislead you. And this comes from a project that I worked on during my PhD 15 to 20 years ago, when we were looking at freight infrastructure in the United States. So the Federal Highway Administration came to my center at MIT Center for Transportation and Logistics, and said, how do we build infrastructure? What exactly should we build that serves the freight needs for the next 30 years? The uncertainty of that next 30 years, now we experience that in next decade when it comes to semiconductor industry. At that time, we spoke with hundreds of executives, experts in this domain. And around 2010, everybody thought, about 70% of them said that the future world is going to be a global marketplace. A completely connected, flat world where you can get access to all the equipment, IP, funding, talent that you need from anywhere in the world, and you can do anything that you want. The world is your oyster. Our research at that time suggested otherwise. We realized that this trade could change from global to regional or local fairly quickly, and the resource adequacy could change drastically. So we developed scenarios, 4 scenarios that were defined by level of resources and whether the nature of trade, whether it was global, regional, or local. So scenario that is diagonally opposite from global marketplace, we call that NAFTA-STEAK, a world that is between US, Canada, and Mexico. NAFTA-STEAK, you can see the flag. I would venture a guess, or I would argue that the world that we live in today is not global marketplace. It's a NAFTA-STEAK world that is broken into blocks. And this started about 10 years ago with the vote on Brexit. It has continued since then. And there are other scenarios. So we didn't just create these scenarios. We actually tested them. We actually did first-hand applications at more than 6 DOTs, different state departments of transportation, different regions in the US. We had hundreds of people come to these workshops, and the input that they gave using scenarios became the output, became the input for the long-range planning process for these various DOTs. And being researchers, we actually measured how use of scenarios affected. And what we found is that using these field experiments, there were significant changes. More than 70% of people changed their judgment about various investment decisions after using scenarios. So to summarize, we know that scenario planning has 3 major advantages. Number 1, it helps you make commitments while keeping uncertainty alive. That's really key. You want to know, where can I build flexibility judiciously, and where can I commit fully based on our understanding of how the world might evolve. It also allows you to stress test your initiatives against just one projection, instead of just one projections, against multiple scenarios, and say, does it really work in different scenarios that are very different from each other? It helps you recognize the signs of change, what we call weak signals that are often evident only in the hindsight. So as I conclude my very short talk, and I'm grateful for this time, what are the takeaways from this very brief presentation for the winners of SemiconStart? So first of all, congratulations. Having gone through the process that Sean described, a really rigorous process, and having come here, this means a lot. Yeah? This is significant, so congratulations. Second, I would say that please pay as much attention to the semicon industry's environment as you pay to your own tech. I'm an engineer all the way through, even though I teach at a business school, my PhD has been in engineering. So I know we engineers have a tendency to be very focused. It's important to understand what's happening outside our industry, so what we are developing can actually work in that changing world. And there are some major uncertainties that we need to be aware of, and you know many of these. Okay, the US-China rivalry and the whole geopolitical reorientation is one significant one. There are different policies, industry policies of different nations. The investments that India makes, for example, in their semiconductor industry will affect flow of talent, may affect flow of materials, equipment, maybe funding that is available in Malaysia. So we need to be aware of that. Industry itself has several advances. These you know better than I do. The chips are changing. There are new kinds of substrates coming up. Packaging itself is changing, that we know. There are environmental concerns. So do consider scenarios. It's a tool that allows you to build flexibility in a smart manner. It allows you to make sense of the changing world so you can adapt in a timely manner. But with that, first of all, best wishes for your journey in your very important role in realizing the aspirations of NSS, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.